Hey guys, tonight we're diving nose first into one of the wildest, weirdest chapters in American history, an era when the world's most iconic soft drink was just a couple of spoonfuls away from sending you on a one-way trip to planet Euphoria. That's right, the early days of Coca-Cola, when a glass of cola had more kick than your entire fantasy football league on draft night. So, before you get too comfy, maybe take a second to like the video and subscribe. But only if you actually enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment telling me what you're sipping on tonight. And if it's a Coke, just check the ingredients for me, will you? Now, dim those lights, fire up a fan for that ambient white noise, and settle in. If you have a weighted blanket, drape it over yourself. If you have a cat, try not to spill your drink on it when you laugh. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever wondered, what would happen if your favorite fizzy beverage turned out to be a bigger party than your cousin's bachelor weekend in Vegas? Would you recognize the taste if your soda suddenly started doubling as a mood enhancer? How did Coca-Cola go from snake oil medicine to global addiction with a smile? Did anyone in 1901 actually sleep? Or were they all just cleaning their attics at 3 a.m.? Would you survive a day in Atlanta when even the local preacher's punch bowl was laced with more than the Holy Spirit? Did Grandma really drink nerve tonic? Or was she running her own secret speakeasy? And, most importantly, if you accidentally time-traveled to 1900 and asked for a Coke, would you make it back, or would you start writing symphonies on the spot? Congratulations, you've just woken up in Atlanta, Georgia, circa 1901, home of jazz, top hats, unregulated pharmaceuticals, and a beverage that's 1 part caramel, 1 part fizz, and 1 part, oops, all cocaine. Welcome to the golden age of soda, when every pharmacy was a party, and the only thing more addictive than sugar was, well, the other stuff in the bottle. Good luck. Step up to the polished marble counter of your local 1901 pharmacy, where every soda jerk in a bow tie is basically your neighborhood chemist, therapist, bartender, and accidental drug dealer. You're not here for cough syrup. You're here for nerve tonic, which comes with a complimentary mood swing and a high chance of cleaning your gutters at midnight. Let's set the scene. The air is heavy with the scent of licorice, dust, and something that might be lemon, if lemon ever took a turn for the medical. Behind the counter, shelves groan under the weight of glass bottles with cheerful labels. Dr. Whizbang's vitalizing elixir, Mrs. Peabody's calming cordial, and, of course, the main event, Coca-Cola, advertised as the ideal brain tonic. There are enough remedies here to cure what ails you and invent a few new ailments along the way. You slide onto a tall wooden stool and glance at the handwritten menu. It reads less like a drink list and more like a dare. Invigorating phosphate soda, heroic nerve drops, genuine French wine coca. Yes, you can order French wine in your soda. No, nobody asks if you're over 21. At this counter, the only ID you need is the look of someone who slept 4 hours last week and is now vibrating with either ambition or chronic fatigue. The soda jerk, whose real name is probably Albert or Chester, greets you with a wink and a whisk of his white towel. His hands move with the confidence of a man who has mixed 100,000 questionable concoctions and has never once read the fine print on a patent medicine label. He recommends Coca-Cola, naturally, explaining that it's good for the nerves, the digestion, the complexion, and the spirits. There's no mention of the part where you might suddenly start reciting poetry or developing a strong opinion on Victorian architecture. You take your first sip. It's cold, it's sweet, it's got a burn that makes you question if there's more than just natural flavors swirling in that glass. There's a sparkle in your veins, a gentle hum in your ears. You feel motivated. Maybe you'll finally write that novel. Maybe you'll alphabetize the attic. Maybe you'll just stare at the wallpaper and understand it on a molecular level. Around you, the pharmacy is alive with possibility. Two matrons at the end of the counter are ordering something for their nerves. A businessman in a stiff collar is on his third glass, openly composing a letter to the president. Behind you, a cluster of teenagers giggle over cherry phosphates and secrets they'll definitely regret sharing tomorrow. Nobody's concerned about addiction, at least, not until they're on their fourth refill and discussing the virtues of brisk walking. The pharmacist himself, looming like a benevolent wizard behind the prescription desk, is ready with advice. He'll sell you a bottle of laudanum for sleep, a dose of heroin cough syrup for your cold, and some cocaine toothache drops for the kids, because nothing says family night like accidentally launching your toddler into the stratosphere. You have questions, nobody has answers, but everyone agrees the headaches are gone, replaced by the urge to reorganize your cutlery drawer. Outside, Atlanta bustles with people on mysterious errands, fueled by fizzy concoctions and a complete lack of government oversight. You watch as a woman wheels a pram into the pharmacy and emerges minutes later with a bottle labeled Children's Soothing Syrup. The baby looks relaxed. The mother looks ready to run for mayor. You finish your drink. You're not sure if you feel better, but you definitely feel something. The world seems a little brighter, your to-do list a little shorter, your eyebrows a little more expressive. Congratulations. You've survived the 1901 pharmacy counter, and you're only mildly concerned that you might not sleep until Thursday. And as you leave, Albert, or was it Chester, calls after you, "See you tomorrow, we'll have something new in." You believe him, because in 1901, the pharmacy counter isn't just where you buy your medicine. It's where you pick up your mood, your motivation, and occasionally, a whole new perspective on the ceiling tiles. Welcome to the golden age of medicine, where the cure is sometimes stranger than the disease. Meet Dr. John Stith Pemberton, wounded Confederate soldier, licensed pharmacist, and the only man in history to try to cure morphine addiction by inventing a drink that could turn a turtle into a tap dancer. His beard is glorious. His laboratory smells like regret and vanilla. Let's set the stage. It's Atlanta, the late 1800s. The city is still rebuilding from the Civil War, and John Pemberton is, by all accounts, a walking chemistry experiment in search of a miracle cure. He's limping from a saber wound received in battle, a souvenir that keeps on giving. The treatment of choice for chronic pain in this era? Morphine, and lots of it. Unfortunately, morphine is about as easy to quit as TikTok, and by the time the war is over, Pemberton, like many other veterans, is deep in the throes of addiction. But Dr. Pemberton is not the sort to give up. If necessity is the mother of invention, then chronic pain and 19th century pharmaceuticals are its extremely caffeinated father. He decides to create something better, something healing, something uplifting, something that won't land you in an opium den or make you recite poetry about the meaning of shadows at family dinner. So, like any responsible pharmacist, he turns to the trusted traditions of his time, mixing up whatever he has on hand and testing until he's either cured or floating. Pemberton's workspace looks less like a doctor's office and more like a magician's apothecary. Glass vials of mysterious powders, dried herbs, and imported leaves clutter every surface. There are jars marked for experimental use only, and a notebook filled with scribbled equations and probably a few good biscuit recipes. If you listen closely, you can hear the gentle fizz of syrup being stirred with carbonated water and, in the background, the faint sound of a man wondering if he's just invented breakfast or a lawsuit. He starts with wine coca, a popular European nerve tonic at the time, which, spoiler, contains wine and a hearty serving of coca leaf extract, The result is a beverage that can make you feel both sophisticated and alarmingly motivated to clean the neighbor's gutters. But then, disaster. Atlanta bans alcohol. Prohibition arrives early. And suddenly, Dr. Pemberton is out a key ingredient and a perfectly good reason to day drink. He pivots. Wine is out, but the coca stays. He adds cola nuts for flavor and extra pep. Lots of sugar, because this is America, and a secret blend of herbs and spices that only people with strong opinions about sarsaparilla truly appreciate. The finished product? A rich, caramel-colored syrup that promises to cure headaches, morphine cravings, nervous affections, and quite possibly ennui itself. At first, Pemberton's new concoction was sold as a patent medicine. Pemberton's French wine coca, eventually rebranded as Coca-Cola. The advertisements are works of art. Long lists of ailments this drink can fix, from headaches to hysteria to the vague, all-encompassing loss of vitality. Take that. Existential dread. Just a sip, and suddenly your digestion is impeccable and your soul feels slightly less like a haunted house. Of course, as with all stories involving experimental chemistry, business partners soon circle like caffeinated vultures. Enter Frank Robinson, the man with the fancy handwriting who names the drink Coca-Cola and writes it in a script so iconic that even aliens would recognize it. Together, they start peddling their wares to pharmacies, soda, fountains, and anyone else who believes a good day starts with a fizz and ends with a slight tingling sensation behind the eyes. The irony is thick enough to bottle. The man trying to free himself from morphine accidentally invents a drink with enough coca extract to launch a motivational speaking career. His cure isn't exactly addiction-free, but in the wild west of American medicine, it's at least delicious and, let's face it, a little more fun than laudanum. Pemberton doesn't live to see his invention conquer the world, but his beard, his bottle, and his genius for better or worse recipe live on. So next time you crack open a Coke, remember, you're sipping on the legacy of a wounded war vet who tried to swap one habit for another and accidentally made history, one glorious, bubbly, questionable ingredient at a time. Peek inside the secret Coca-Cola formula. So secret that if you tried to recreate it at home today, the DEA would be knocking before you finished stirring. Notes of citrus, a little cinnamon, and oh yes, enough pharmaceutical-grade cocaine to keep you up until the next presidential administration. Let's start with the basics. You're in Atlanta, 1901. The most powerful beverage in the country isn't moonshine, coffee, or even sweet tea. It's a bubbling, caramel-colored potion brewed up behind pharmacy counters, guarded more closely than the Holy Grail, and sold as a brain tonic to anyone who asks. You sidle up to the marble bar, order a glass, and, if you're lucky, you might catch a glimpse of a soda jerk quietly ladling out a thick syrup from a mysterious bottle labeled simply Coke. Now, the secret formula isn't just a marketing ploy. This thing is under lock and key. Only a select few know the full recipe, and they're probably all related or in possession of a very intimidating moustache. The ingredients list is a mixture of the familiar: sugar, citrus oils, vanilla, the exotic, nutmeg, neroli, coriander, and the frankly alarming fluid extract of coca leaf. Yes, the same stuff that makes modern border agents sweat. In the early days, Coca-Cola's recipe was like the mixtape of the century. Dr. Pemberton and his friends threw everything in: orange oil for a citrusy zing, lemon oil to balance it out, a little cinnamon for warmth, a dash of nutmeg because apparently someone's grandma insisted, and a 7X flavoring blend that's still debated on internet forums today. It's as if they were daring the future to guess what on earth was in this stuff. and the future still hasn't quite figured it out. But the real star? Coca leaf. Not just a sprinkle. We're talking a hearty pour of coca extract, containing actual, pharmaceutical-grade cocaine. It wasn't some vague trace amount. By some estimates, every glass had enough to make Sigmund Freud raise an eyebrow and politely ask you to slow down. And nobody thought this was odd. In the 1890s, cocaine was just another over-the-counter pick-me-up, tossed into everything from cough syrup to toothache drops for kids. It was the energy drink arms race, but with way more jazz hands. And don't forget the cola nut, source of the cola in the name. A caffeinated little nut that doubled the drink's pick-me-up factor. So if the cocaine didn't have you reorganizing your sock drawer at 3 a.m., the caffeine certainly would. Every glass of early Coca-Cola was basically a legal speedball, and the best part? It was recommended for children, mothers, and the elderly. For headaches, exhaustion, or a case of the Mondays, went the slogan more or less. If you started hallucinating, you were just full of pep. If you're picturing soda as something mild and harmless, think again. This was the original hard stuff, just fizzy enough to be fun, just sweet enough to be addictive, and potent enough that you might suddenly understand calculus. The formula was so fiercely protected that competitors spent decades trying to reverse engineer it. Pharmacies in rival towns made their own knockoff cola drinks with names like Coke, Coca-Cola, and the aggressively uninspired Real Cola. None had quite the same magic, or, as the government would later realize, quite the same punch. When the Pure Food and Drug Act started poking around in 1906, Coca-Cola's ingredient list got a little less interesting, at least on paper. But in these early days, the recipe was wild, illegal by modern standards, and proudly advertised as the answer to life's every problem. Sleepy? Have a Coke. Sore throat? Have a Coke. Existential crisis? Buddy, you already know. So next time you crack open a can, remember, you're sipping on the distant descendant of a potion that could have doubled as both a science project and a party trick. The original recipe was sugar, spice, and everything illegal. Perfect for a country that believed in optimism, innovation, and sometimes just a little too much of a good thing. Welcome to the local soda fountain, where teens, businessmen, and grandmas gather to gossip, flirt, and accidentally microdose stimulants. Your drink is served in a glass. The straws are made of paper. The small talk is made of side effects. It's 1901, and the neighborhood soda fountain is less a place for grabbing a drink, and more the beating, bubbly heart of American social life. You're stepping into a world of marble counters, spinning stools, and the gentle clatter of glasses being rinsed, all under the soft whir of a ceiling fan that looks like it's been turning since the Civil War. Forget coffee shops, juice bars, or TikTok. This is where the real influencers hang out, armed with sharp tongues, sharper suspenders, and an alarming tolerance for nerve tonics. Slide up to the counter and you'll notice something. Nobody is in a hurry. Businessmen in vests linger over tall glasses, swapping rumors about the stock market and whose cousin eloped with the dry cleaner's daughter. School kids crowd around, daring each other to try the most exotic flavors. Grandmothers hold court at the end, doling out advice that's equal parts wisdom, and have you tried adding a little whiskey to that? The air is sticky with syrup and anticipation. The soda jerk, always a local celebrity, stands behind the counter in a crisp white uniform. He's a master of ceremonies and amateur chemist, part mixologist, part confessor, and a little bit mad scientist. He's the only person in town who knows how to fix a broken heart with a lime phosphate and a well-timed joke. Order a cherry smash, and you'll get a wink. Order a Coca-Cola, and you'll get a conspiratorial smile, like you're both in on a secret the government hasn't figured out yet. And oh, the menu. It's a wild symphony of flavors and promises. Grape smash, egg cream, celery tonic, iron brew, moxie, and, of course, the legendary Coca-Cola, with its mysterious blend of sugar, caffeine, and just enough coca extract to make your to-do list look like a fun challenge. Every drink promises something. Better digestion, more pep, relief from female troubles, and the ability to run a marathon, or at least make it through church without snoring. Conversations bounce from weather to politics, to that new contraption called the automobile. Secrets are spilled faster than seltzer water, and the local newspaper could probably save money by just eavesdropping at the fountain for its next headline. Teenagers make eyes over ice cream floats, using a single straw to launch 1,000 future therapy sessions. Somewhere, a grandma explains that when she was young, soda cost a nickel and didn't come with so much excitement. She orders a second glass. It's not all sugar and sentiment. Some folks come here because the soda fountain doubles as a pharmacy counter. Maybe you're picking up a bottle of cough syrup, but while you're at it, why not stay for a lemon phosphate and a quick chat about your mysterious rash? The boundary between medicine and refreshment is so thin you can see through it. People drink to forget, to remember, to feel better, to feel something. And while modern social networks brag about connecting the world, the soda fountain was already doing it with a few marble stools and a vat of syrup. It was LinkedIn for job hunters, Tinder for the desperate and daring, Facebook for nosy neighbors, and WebMD for anyone willing to ask, does your left eye twitch after the sarsaparilla, or is it just me? By nightfall, the place quiets. The glasses are washed. The last patrons shuffle home with a buzz of caffeine, sugar, and rumors. And as you step out into the cool night air, you realize you're not just leaving a store. You're leaving the original, fizzy social network, where everybody knew your name and your favorite flavor, and nobody judged you for jittering all the way home. The soda fountain, where America went to connect, confess, and caffeinate, one slightly suspicious glass at a time. In an era when branding meant promising to fix everything from headaches to heartbreaks, Coca-Cola was sold as a miracle tonic for all ills. Insomnia? Drink more Coke. Tired? Drink Coke. Can't stop drinking Coke? Have you tried? Wait for it? Drinking more Coke? Let's take a soothing walk through the world of 1901 advertising, where truth is flexible, and the answer to every question is absolutely. We can put that in a bottle. The shelves are stacked with tonics and syrups, each one shouting their benefits with the subtlety of a brass band at a funeral. Coca-Cola stands front and center, promising salvation in every fizzy, bubbling sip. Need to focus at work? Take a drink. Need to relax after work? Take two. If your spirits lag, if your stomach aches, if your mood has wandered off and left you for another, don't worry. Coca-Cola is here, and it has the stamina of a caffeinated greyhound. And the advertisements? Oh, the advertisements. Painted in elegant script, surrounded by illustrations of wide-eyed, glowing people who have never looked more hydrated. They're everywhere. Newspapers, magazines, storefronts, even the occasional hand fan. Each one proclaims that Coca-Cola relieves mental and physical exhaustion and is invigorating to the brain and body. If you're anxious, depressed, shy, or just suffering from a general malaise, there's a Coke with your name on it. Modern brands fret about making health claims. Coca-Cola's early ads read like a legal disclaimer written by a poet with boundary issues. Step into the average pharmacy or general store, and you'll find the Coca-Cola medical cabinet. Yes, you can take it for headaches, but also for constipation, indigestion, hysteria, and the vague but concerning lack of vim. Doctors prescribe it for children who can't sit still and adults who can't stand up. Some patients get so much vim they repaint the barn in a single afternoon and then have enough energy left over to alphabetize the potatoes. Never mind that a single glass contains more stimulants than a triple espresso with a Red Bull chaser. It's not just pharmacies, either. Traveling medicine shows pitch Coca-Cola as a scientific marvel, the result of years of careful research by a man who, in reality, was mostly experimenting with ways to stop feeling like his leg was on fire. Customers gather under canvas tents and clap politely as the salesman lists ailments that Coke can cure. Lost your spark? Lost your marbles? Lost your way in life? Try a bottle. The crowd oohs. The crowd ahs. The crowd is, coincidentally, a little jumpy. Let's not forget the testimonials. Letters pour in from satisfied customers who claim Coca-Cola brought their eyesight back, saved their marriage, and probably balanced their checkbook while it was at it. One grateful user writes, "After a single bottle, I no longer feel the urge to nap between meals or at night." Another says, "I drank 3 glasses and now understand the long division." If you're looking for a scientific double-blind study, you're a few decades early. But if you want anecdotes, Coca-Cola's got barrels of them. And for those truly in need, the solution is never less Coke, it's always more. If you're restless, try a second glass. If you're nervous, chase it with a third. Side effects? Don't ask. If your hands are trembling, it's probably just excitement. If you haven't blinked in an hour, congratulations, you're fully revitalized. So next time you see a modern commercial promising clarity, focus, or good vibes, remember, Coca-Cola did it first. And with enough gusto to make you want to run a marathon, solve a crossword, and redecorate your entire house. Preferably all before breakfast. And if you still don't feel better, just have another Coke. Trust the science. Trust the branding. Or at least, trust that you'll be too busy organizing your spice rack to remember what you were worried about in the first place. The year is 1901, and the city is buzzing, literally. With every corner druggist serving up liquid pep, Atlanta is one giant, mildly sweaty insomniac. The nightlife is fueled by ragtime, optimism, and more central nervous stimulation than the average NASA launch. Step out onto Peachtree Street after dark, and you'll see it for yourself. The streetlights flicker on, the city air thick with the scent of magnolia, coal smoke, and a little something extra, a mysterious fizzing tang from 100 open soda bottles. Atlanta is alive, wide awake, and running not on dreams, but on a steady drip of carbonated, caramel-colored chaos. You can almost hear the city's collective heartbeat thumping at 120 beats per minute. If you're looking for somewhere to go at midnight, your options are as varied as the city's soda menu. Every pharmacy glows like a beacon. Doors flung open to late-night wanderers in search of something to drink, something to cure, or just somewhere to hang out until the sun rises. Inside, the marble counters are crowded. Students cramming for exams, factory workers on their third shift, debutantes giggling behind gloved hands, and traveling salesmen with eyes so wide they look permanently surprised. The air buzzes with nervous energy and the kind of enthusiasm that says, "No, really, I will write that novel tonight." You hear the ragtime from a nearby music hall spilling into the street. Quick-stepping feet and clapping hands echoing through the humid southern air. Dancers whirl, bouties spin, and nobody seems bothered that their feet haven't stopped moving since breakfast. If they pause, it's only for a glass of Coca-Cola, refilled and refueled, as the house pianist winks and launches into another impossibly fast tune. Forget slow dancing. In this town, even the waltz is played at double speed. Meanwhile, the society drifts from party to party. popping into hotel lobbies, supper clubs, and the occasional illicit gambling den, each one more brightly lit and over-caffeinated than the last. The only thing more common than empty glasses are new business ideas, each one pitched with the unstoppable confidence of someone who just washed down a cinnamon bun with a double dose of nerve tonic. And if you need to catch up, there's always another soda fountain on the next corner, ready to supply your second wind or your seventh. If you find yourself wandering the residential blocks, don't expect much quiet. Porch lights are on, rocking chairs creak, and old men swap stories while watching their neighbors pace the street at 2 a.m. Babies wail, dogs bark, and somewhere, a group of children, sleepless from an innocent Coca-Cola float, are inventing a new game called Who Can Jump the Highest Without Blinking. Spoiler: everyone's a winner, and nobody's napping until Tuesday. Even the churches are in on the action. Temperance meetings run late, fueled by refreshments that keep parishioners nodding in agreement, and also, possibly, vibrating. Ministers thunder against the dangers of sin and excess, their sermons growing faster as the night wears on. At some point, everyone is wide awake, rapt, and ready to either repent or start a jug band. It's not just people who can't sleep. Atlanta's streetcars rattle through the city, clanging bells and sparking as they run routes deep into the night. Newspaper boys shout the latest headlines, probably about how the city is growing, modernizing, and still somehow running on a strict diet of sugar, hope, and legally questionable stimulants. So you too stay up late. Maybe you're journaling. Maybe you're learning the banjo. Maybe you're just lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the city hum. You wonder if anyone has ever actually slept in Atlanta, or if that's just a rumor started by someone who left town to get some rest. Welcome to the sleepless, sparkling, endlessly caffeinated heart of the South. In 1901, Atlanta wasn't just a city that never slept. It was a city that couldn't. And honestly, nobody seemed to mind. Prohibition is gaining steam, and everyone's swearing off booze. The solution? Replace whiskey with temperance drinks like Coca-Cola, and accidentally replace your drinking problem with a sudden, urgent need to reorganize your spice rack at 2 a.m. Let's set the scene. America at the turn of the 20th century. The church bells are ringing. The temperance union is rallying. And everywhere you turn, there's someone waving a pamphlet about the dangers of demon rum. Town meetings are less about potholes and more about how to keep Uncle Pete away from the cider press. Mothers sigh with relief as saloons shut their doors only to discover that their husbands and sons are spending even more time at the pharmacy soda fountain. Congratulations! You've traded one vice for another. Only this one comes with extra fizz and less guilt. Temperance drinks are all the rage. And leading the charge? Coca-Cola? It's sweet, it's bubbly, and it's advertised as the drink for decent folk, no hangover, no sin, just pure, wholesome refreshment and the kind of nervous energy usually reserved for small woodland creatures. In a world where having a drink no longer means quietly shuffling out of a shadowy saloon, Coca-Cola is suddenly the most respectable glass in town. You want to socialize? You head to the soda fountain. Instead of the slow drawl of barroom banter, you get the lively buzz of 100 conversations happening all at once. There's no bartender wiping down a glass and asking about your troubles. There's a soda jerk, expertly pouring syrup, seltzer, and possibly more cocaine than any of the local lawmen would ever admit. The kids order chocolate phosphates. The ladies order cherry coke. Dad orders a nerve tonic and is last seen reorganizing the attic at midnight, humming "Onward, Christian Soldiers." For the temperance crowd, this is a golden age. Preachers hail the new soft drinks from the pulpit, praising them as wholesome alternatives to the sins of the bottle. Church picnics are now less about sidelong glances and more about competitive croquet and who can finish 3 glasses of cola without blinking. There are even dry parties, where the only thing more intoxicating than the conversation is the punch bowl filled with enough Coca-Cola to power a telegraph office for a week. Of course, not everyone is fooled. A few suspicious grandmothers, wise to the ways of the world, start asking questions. Why does little Billy bounce off the walls after Sunday school? Why can't anyone in this town sleep past dawn? Rumors begin to circulate. Is it the sugar? Is it the caffeine? Is it, gasp, something more? By the time the local doctor quietly suggests maybe switch to water every now and then, it's too late. Half the town is alphabetizing their hymnals, and the other half is inventing new forms of calisthenics. And let's not forget the marketing. Temperance drinks are sold as miracle tonics, guaranteed to cure everything from fatigue to melancholy, to the existential dread that comes with living in a rapidly industrializing world. Each glass of Coca-Cola promises virtue and vigor, as if you could cleanse your soul and unclog your arteries in the same sip. There are posters, newspaper ads, and more slogans than any one brand should be legally allowed to print. Delicious, refreshing, invigorating, the drink of temperance and progress. You get the idea. It's the ultimate historical irony. In trying to banish the bottle, America accidentally uncorks a new obsession, one just as addictive, but with better branding and a lot more glassware. So the next time someone tells you they're on the wagon, just check their pulse and see if they're gently vibrating. By dawn, the town is wide awake, the church bells are ringing, and everyone agrees that prohibition is working beautifully. Nobody's drunk, everybody's alert, and absolutely no one is sleeping until at least 1915. The world of soda isn't just Coca-Cola, there's fierce competition, and everyone's playing fast and loose with their own medicinal formulas. Spoiler, there's enough white powder in this town to start a ski resort. Let's travel back to the soda-splattered streets of 1901, where every pharmacist and would-be beverage tycoon is trying to outfizz the competition. Coca-Cola might be the reigning champion, but it's far from the only game in town. Step into any respectable apothecary, and you'll be greeted by a wall of brightly labeled bottles. Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, Celery, Cola, Cola, Aid, Moxie, Vin Mariani, and enough off-brand brain tonics to make a modern cardiologist faint. If you ever wondered where the phrase "try anything once" originated, it was probably here, after someone sampled Dr. Cook's sarsaparilla miracle syrup and started hearing colors. The competition isn't just about taste. It's about who can promise the most miracles and cram the most stimulating substances into a single glass. Pepsi, for instance, was created as Brad's drink, a mild-mannered pharmacy soda, later rebranded with a snappier name and enough bubbly optimism to make even the most dedicated Coke drinker raise an eyebrow. Dr. Pepper, meanwhile, is selling itself as the king of beverages, a mysterious blend of 23 flavors, most of them only legally available if you have a note from your doctor and a strong stomach. Each company stakes its claim as the cure for all life's troubles. Headache? Try Pepsi. Feeling blue? Have a Dr. Pepper. Need to finish the 1900 census, paint your barn, and teach your chickens algebra before breakfast? There's a drink for that, just don't ask what's in it. The answer is always herbs and spices, or a proprietary blend, which in practice means a dash of caffeine, a whisper of cola, nut, and, let's be honest, a generous helping of substances that would get you tackled at airport security today. Some drinks come from medical roots, others from pure bravado. Vin Mariani, the French import, is openly advertising itself as wine with coca leaf extract. Yes, that's wine and cocaine in the same bottle. endorsed by everyone from the Pope to Thomas Edison. When you're competing with that, you have to bring your A game. It's less of a beverage market and more of a friendly neighborhood arms race. Except the weapons are glass straws and the casualties are a lot of sleepless nights. No two drinks taste the same, and everyone claims their formula is best for nerves, digestion, and vim. Cola Ade is orange and weirdly spicy. Celery cola tastes like a dare. Dr. Pepper's 23 flavors defy description, although several involve a hint of prune, and a level of mystery usually reserved for espionage novels. If you can drink a full bottle of Moxie without blinking, you're either from New England or an actual magician. Brand loyalty is fierce. Soda jerks argue behind the counter, customers argue in the street, and families split over which beverage belongs on the dinner table. Ads promise brighter eyes, better moods, and the kind of mental focus usually reserved for champion chess players. No matter which drink you pick, you're guaranteed a flavor explosion and a mild existential crisis before your second sip. And the real showstopper? The so-called Cocaine Olympics. An unofficial competition over who could stuff the most pep into a patent medicine without drawing the attention of the law. The winner? Usually the company with the flashiest label and the most ambitious claims. But everyone's a winner when the after-dinner conversation gets livelier and nobody sleeps until sunrise. So, next time you're overwhelmed by a wall of energy drinks at the store, remember, it all started here, in a time when the world's thirstiest inventors competed for glory, customers, and the best table at the pharmacy. The stakes were high, the drinks were higher, and the only thing faster than the bubbles was the race to the next big miracle ingredient. Welcome to the golden age of soda, where the only thing more potent than the rivalry was the rush. Grandma always said they don't make them like they used to, and she's right. In 1901, your average family recipe might call for a dash of salt, a pinch of baking soda, and a healthy scoop of pure coca extract. Bon appetit. Step inside a turn-of-the-century American kitchen, where the most dangerous thing isn't the stove, it's the spice rack. The counter is dusted with flour, the air is heavy with the scent of yeast, cinnamon, and something sharper, livelier, a subtle hint that tonight's dinner could double as a controlled substance. Your grandmother, dressed in a starched apron and a look of mild exasperation, is baking up her famous invigorating bread. The secret ingredient? Coca extract, bought at the local pharmacy for the price of a song, and absolutely zero questions asked. This is the golden age of homemade remedies. Modern recipe blogs debate whether you should use almond or oat milk. Back then, it was, how much coca can I put in these cookies before the neighbor's kids learn to play the piano backwards? Forget vanilla extract. Coca extract was the household MVP, used in cakes, candies, cough syrups, and the occasional mood swing. The cookbooks are filled with cheery, handwritten notes. For headaches, coca. Wine syrup. For colds, try hot milk with coca and nutmeg. For flagging spirits, coca, pick me up, fudge. No one blinks an eye at the casual inclusion of ingredients that would make today's pharmacists stage an intervention. If you asked for energy bites, Grandma might actually hand you something that would power you through a barn raising, a barn dance, and a barn's worth of existential dread. It wasn't just sweets, either. Coca found its way into savory dishes. Family stews with a pinch of tonic powder were as normal as Sunday chicken. That birthday cake? Guaranteed to keep the kids running laps around the wood stove for hours. If the family dog got into the leftovers, well, he'd be up all night, but at least the backyard would be completely dug up and alphabetized by morning. Why all the excitement? Partly, it's because food was medicine, and medicine was food. With no FDA to ruin the fun, every meal was an experiment in self-improvement, and accidental self-experimentation. Housewives clipped recipes from magazines promising vigor, mental sharpness, and a sense of sunny well-being. Coca-based treats appeared at garden parties, picnics, and bake sales. If you could eat it, you could probably medicate it, and if it tingled, so much the better. Of course, every family had its favorite. Maybe it was Aunt Mabel's uplifting scones, which could turn even the most sullen dinner guest into the life of the party. Or Uncle Frank's high spirits lemonade, a summer staple that made every family reunion feel like the Kentucky Derby. Little kids drank pep milk, a bedtime concoction so lively that bedtime itself became a loose suggestion and not so much a reality. It all sounds wild, but for 1901, this was peak domestic science. No one saw the downside. If the kitchen doubled as a chemistry set, at least you'd never be bored. If you needed to power through laundry, mending, or a heartfelt letter to the editor about the state of the sidewalks, you'd just help yourself to a second slice of energizing marble cake. Looking back, you almost have to admire the optimism. There was no anxiety about processed foods, no panic about preservatives, just the quiet faith that whatever you put in your body could only make you stronger, faster, and maybe just a touch more entertaining at parties. Grandma wasn't wrong. They really don't make them like they used to. And honestly, maybe that's for the best. But next time you need a little pick-me-up, raise a glass of modern, cocaine-free cola to those kitchen pioneers who believed a teaspoon of coca could fix just about anything, including Monday morning. Cocaine isn't just for the working class. It's a staple at every respectable Victorian soiree, right next to the caviar and just behind the hand-embroidered tissues. If you're rich, you can afford the good stuff and a slightly faster pace on the ballroom floor. Let's time travel to an elegant townhome in 1901, where velvet curtains muffle the sound of horse-drawn carriages and the parlors glow with gaslight. The city's finest are arriving in their finest. Corsets laced, collars starched, jewels gleaming, mustaches waxed to a dangerous point. Downstairs, servants circulate with silver trays piled high with cucumber sandwiches, cheese straws, and champagne. But the real action isn't in the punch bowl. It's in the medicine cabinet, or perhaps slipped discreetly into a crystal decanter labeled tonic. This is high society's best kept, least worried about secret. While the working class takes their cola at the pharmacy counter, the upper crust enjoys their stimulant as part of a carefully curated experience. Cocaine drops and coca wine are served in monogrammed bottles, offered by butlers with an arched eyebrow, and the silent promise of discretion. A little pep in your sherry, madam. Perhaps a restorative for your nerves, sir. It's not gauche, it's modern. The effects are immediate. The pianist at the baby grand is pounding out ragtime at twice the normal speed. Hair slightly out of place. Eyes a bit too bright. Dancers whirl through the drawing room, cheeks flushed, laughing at nothing in particular. Lady Bathsheba, always shy at parties, has found the courage to tell Lord Wellington exactly what she thinks of his cravat. Lord Wellington, in turn, is busy re-explaining the rules of cricket to a rapidly growing audience, most of whom have never been this interested in cricket or anything else before. Every society hostess knows a successful evening requires careful orchestration. Just the right music, just the right lighting, and just the right refreshments. If a guest starts to flag, a quick trip to the retiring room for a spoonful of Vin Mariani, a delightfully French wine laced with coca, will have them back on the dance floor before the next quadrille. Party games take on a life of their own. Charades is suddenly an Olympic event. The cakewalk becomes a marathon. Even chess matches reach a level of intensity not seen again until the Cold War. The social butterfly effect ripples outward. Polite conversation veers into passionate debate. A discussion of opera turns into a heated analysis of why Puccini is clearly superior to Verdi. Complete with interpretive humming, even the children, sent up to bed hours ago, lie awake, marveling at how their governess seems to have developed a new passion for midnight embroidery. And let's not overlook the most important Victorian tradition of all: competitive philanthropy. After an evening of lively stimulation, it's only natural to pledge a new hospital wing, or at least donate generously to the Society for the Protection of Small Birds. Letters of intent are written at a furious pace, promising everything from improved orphanages to a new society for uplifting the tired and nervous. You'll follow through tomorrow, or possibly next week. Of course, appearances are everything. No one admits the source of this relentless optimism and energy. A new French tonic, they say, the latest from Paris. Quite invigorating. Behind closed doors, decanters are topped off, bottles are hidden in hat boxes, and the secret ingredient is never discussed at the dinner table. If anyone's up until sunrise, it's certainly the result of good company and superior linen, not a glass of restorative number 7. By dawn, the party is winding down. Guests stagger home, still discussing cricket, still humming Puccini, still vowing to adopt more orphans. The servants collect the glasses, fluff the velvet pillows, and reset the medicine cabinet for the next gathering. High society may have moved on from gin, but their party trick remains the same. Look effortless, dance well, and always have something special in the decanter. In the Victorian era, you didn't just keep up with the Joneses, you outpaced them, one lively coca-infused soiree at a time. At first, you could only get your Coke fresh at the fountain, but then the company started bottling it. Now, for the first time, Americans can accidentally get wired at home, and the era of raiding the icebox at midnight is born. Picture it. It's a humid Atlanta afternoon in 1901. The soda fountain is packed as usual, school kids clamoring for cherry phosphates, businessmen unwinding with a brain tonic, mothers catching up on gossip while pretending to buy cough syrup. The soda jerk, part showman and part chemist, is orchestrating an endless parade of fizz, foam, and mysterious syrups. But outside, a new revolution is quietly taking shape. One that will make it possible for you to experience the jittery joys of Coca-Cola without ever leaving your parlor. Enter the age of bottling. It starts small. A few visionaries strike a deal with the Coca-Cola company to bottle the syrup, add carbonated water, and ship it far beyond Atlanta's city limits. At first, the company isn't even convinced it's a good idea. After all, who would want soda that wasn't mixed fresh by a guy in a paper hat? But as soon as the first bottles hit the shelves, it becomes obvious. America is ready for convenience, and it is especially ready for the kind of beverage that doesn't require social skills, a bow tie, or small talk with someone named Albert. Suddenly, the world changes. Now, you don't need to wrangle with traffic, wrestle with a counterstool, or worry that your neighbor is judging you for your third tonic of the afternoon. All you need is a nickel and a bottle opener. You can pop a Coke in your kitchen, on your porch, in the privacy of your own home, preferably with no witnesses to how quickly you down it. The thrill of refrigeration has never felt so powerful. The family icebox, once the exclusive domain of leftover stew and melting butter, now becomes the shrine for a row of glass bottles, each one brimming with caramel-colored possibility. This is the birth of the modern beverage habit. Midnight cravings? No problem. The kitchen glows faintly as you sneak in, open the creaking icebox, and fish out a frosty bottle of Coca-Cola. Maybe you're celebrating a long day. Maybe you're hoping the fizz will spark inspiration. Maybe you're just planning to alphabetize your pantry at 2 a.m. Either way, The era of spontaneous, at-home refreshment has begun, and the country will never sleep the same way again. The kids love it. Of course, no more awkwardly ordering from a stern soda jerk. Now, a single bottle can turn the backyard into a summer carnival, or a Tuesday into a celebration. Parents are equal parts grateful and suspicious. It's convenient, it's delicious, and it comes with absolutely no warning label about the possible side effects, which include dancing on tables, writing extremely optimistic letters to relatives, and running laps around the block until the neighbors notice. For the Coca-Cola company, bottling is the golden ticket. The drink that started as a local curiosity explodes into a nationwide craze. It's shipped across states, then across the country, then eventually around the world. It's the original viral product, shared not through social media, but through kitchen pantries, picnic baskets, and train carriages. You can now send a bottle of Coke as a gift, pack it in a lunchbox, or hide it from your siblings behind the pickles. Of course, with bottling comes new rituals, collecting bottles, trading bottles, inventing games where the loser has to drink the last, mysteriously flat sip. The glass is heavy, the pop of the cap is satisfying, and the first icy gulp is proof that the future has arrived. No more waiting for your turn at the counter. No more suspicious glances from the town busybody. Just pure, unfiltered, legal lightning in a bottle. And so, as the world slides into the 20th century, the soda fountain's magic travels home, and the legend of Coca-Cola grows. Welcome to the age of bottled lightning. Just don't be surprised if nobody's asleep before sunrise. It's not just Coke. Every bottle in the apothecary is a swirling mystery of hope, alcohol, and unregulated substances. If you can dream it, you can drink it. The fine print is written in invisible ink. Welcome to the American pharmacy, circa 1901, a cross between a modern wellness store and the first round of a particularly unhinged science fair. The shelves stretch to the ceiling, heavy with bottles of every shape and color. Each is lovingly labeled with promises as grand as a presidential campaign. Dr. Blodgett's Instant Cheer Elixir, Old Reliable's Stomach Smoother, and Professor Butterworth's Miracle Brain Powder. You want a cure for what ails you? Take your pick. You want a brand new ailment? That's on special, 2 for 1. In this era, wellness is less about yoga mats and cold-pressed juice, and more about trusting any traveling salesman who can balance a hat and a mustache at the same time. The patent medicine industry is booming. There are no ingredient lists, no warnings, and certainly no restrictions on what can be called medicine. If it fizzes, burns, tingles, or smells like adventure, someone will buy it. If it comes in a bottle shaped like a lion or a lady's boot, it might even cure baldness. Maybe. The concoctions themselves are a marvel of creative chemistry. Many are based on alcohol, lots and lots of alcohol. Medicinal, whiskey is a staple. Tonic wine is just table wine with a diploma. Then there's the parade of powders, roots, and exotic herbs. Wild cherry bark, sarsaparilla, Californian fig syrup, and an entire forest's worth of dubious botanicals. If you need an extra kick, there's always coca extract, morphine, or a dash of opium for flavor. One cough syrup in 1901 contains enough narcotics to make your cold feel less important than your newfound sense of existential euphoria. The marketing is where the real magic happens. Each remedy claims to cure not just specific diseases, but also general malaise, unladylike nervousness, and stubborn cases of melancholy. There are tonics for tired mothers, pills for irritable children, and syrups for overworked businessmen who have lost their vigor and maybe their keys. Some ads swear their product will brighten the eyes, clear the mind, and purify the blood. You start to wonder what happens if you drink 2 bottles. Can you see into the future? Side effects are a quaint afterthought. If you start seeing double, that's just your body adjusting. If you feel unexpectedly joyful, chalk it up to the power of positive thinking and possibly the heroin. The only real warning is that the bottle may settle during transport, which is 1901 speak for don't ask too many questions. Snake oil salesmen are the influencers of their day, peddling cures from wagons at traveling medicine shows. They stand atop barrels, performing feats of strength and endurance, usually after drinking a cup or 2 of their own miracle fluid. Their assistants pass through the crowd, selling bottles to anyone with a pulse and a dime. If you're disappointed, don't worry. There's always next week's show, promising a completely different miracle with the same results. And while the government occasionally frowns at all this, enforcement is, let's say, aspirational. If the sheriff actually tries to arrest anyone, he'll need a warrant, a magnifying glass, and probably his own bottle of invigorating liniment. The Pure Food and Drug Act is coming. But until then, every dose is a gamble, a little hope, a little hype, and a big old swig of whatever's in the bottle. So next time you scroll past an ad for a detox tea or see a miracle cure on late-night TV, remember, you're living in the shadow of the original Wild West of wellness. At least now the fine print is in 12-point font and not entirely made up. Who better to sell a beverage than the era's finest minds? Freud sings cocaine's praises, Twain cracks wise, and suddenly, even your English teacher is sipping the stuff before breakfast. Welcome to the dawn of celebrity marketing. An era before blue check marks, viral TikToks, or Instagram collabs. Here, a few well-placed words from a cultural giant could launch a product from local curiosity to global phenomenon. And nothing caught the endorsement fever quite like Coca-Cola and its equally inspired cousins. Let's start with the king of wit himself, Mark Twain. Twain was the gold standard of public opinion, the snarky uncle at America's literary dinner table. If he liked something, the country wanted too. While he wasn't officially on Coca-Cola's payroll, his fondness for patent medicines, tonics, and the occasional refreshing draft made him an accidental influencer. Newspapers would casually mention Twain's presence at soda fountains, sipping the latest concoction and delivering one-liners sharp enough to stir your drink. Too much of anything is bad, but too much good whiskey is barely enough, he wrote. Now imagine Twain with a cold glass of Coca-Cola, buzzing, perhaps, with more than just clever ideas. And then there's Sigmund Freud, the original king of the self-help movement and a true champion of therapeutic cocaine. In the 1880s and 90s, Freud wasn't just dabbling in psychoanalysis. He was busy writing scholarly love letters to coca, extract, claiming it cured everything from migraines to shyness to the weight of existence itself. The man recommended cocaine to friends, patients, and anyone who would listen. If Coca-Cola had launched a Freud edition, you can bet it would have come with a free notebook for analyzing your dreams after you downed a few glasses and started rearranging the furniture at 3 a.m. It wasn't just the intellectuals either. Anyone with a little social cachet or medical degree became fair game for the miracle tonic marketers. Letters, real and suspiciously enthusiastic, poured into the Coca-Cola company from doctors, actors, authors, and the occasional European aristocrat. One British lord famously recommended coca wine to his hunting buddies, just the thing for an all-day chase. Socialites hosted parties where the highlight wasn't the caviar, but the medicated punch. It was like the Oscars red carpet. Except instead of a swag bag, you got a fizzing glass and a new sense of possibility. Advertising copywriters, never ones to let a good opportunity slip by, plastered testimonials across every newspaper and train station, endorsed by leading men of science, favored by artists, orators, and Olympic champions. Even if the endorsee was only tangentially connected, a well-placed quote could move bottles. No one seemed to mind that the doctor behind the testimonial was also moonlighting as a vaudeville magician. And teachers? Forget morning coffee. The staff lounge at your local 1901 school was more likely to feature nerve tonic and enough cola syrup to inspire an impromptu poetry slam. Students wrote essays at speeds that modern word processors would envy. Homework was returned before it was assigned. The line between inspiration and insomnia was blurry, but at least everyone was awake for morning assembly. The best part: most of these influencers genuinely believed in the products they pitched. They weren't posing for a quick payday. They were true believers in the miracle of modern science, blissfully unaware that their nerves were being gently roasted from the inside. Freud, for one, kept singing the praises of Coca long after he should have switched to chamomile tea. It's easy to laugh now, but these endorsements worked. When the world's greatest thinkers, writers, and oddballs start telling you their secret is in the bottle, it's hard not to listen, especially if you've already had your third glass and you're suddenly very interested in reorganizing your spice rack. Celebrity endorsements. They were the original viral marketing, proof that a famous face and a good story can sell almost anything, even a fizzy drink that could outpace your morning espresso. Turn-of-the-century ads are everywhere, promising youth, beauty, and digestive comfort. Never mind the side effects. You'll look so good you won't even notice your hands are vibrating. Welcome to the dawn of the American advertising age, where every blank, wall, park bench, and church bulletin board is a potential canvas for the next big promise. Step onto any city street in 1901, and you're instantly under siege by slogans, each more optimistic and wildly misleading than the last. Invigorates the body, stimulates the mind, for headaches, lethargy, and that general feeling of mortal dread. If your symptoms exist, there's an ad promising relief, and if your symptoms don't exist, well, don't worry, the ads will invent them for you. The Coca-Cola company leads the pack with a marketing budget that could pay for every church bell in Atlanta to ring "Drink Coca-Cola" in Morse code. Every pharmacy window features a lovingly painted sign, a radiant, red-cheeked lady daintily sipping from a frosted glass, her hair flawless, her waist impossibly tiny, her pupils suspiciously dilated. If you believe the posters, the average Coke drinker is 1 part Olympic athlete, 2 parts debutante, and 3 parts circus performer. Open a magazine and you'll find testimonials so enthusiastic they border on religious epiphany. After only 3 bottles, I discovered the secret of youth and finally finished painting the barn. My digestion has never been better, and I can hear colors. Some ads skip subtlety altogether. Tastes great, feels even greater. Drink Coca-Cola and outrun your sadness. Modern ads fear lawsuits. 1901 ads fear only a shortage of exclamation points. And it's not just the copy, it's the art. Illustrators are hard at work, producing lush, watercolor scenes of couples in rowboats, children at play, and dreamy summer picnics, all smiling just a little too hard, as if every sandwich is hiding a secret. Soda bottles glisten in the sunday, the ice sparkles. A single glass of Coca-Cola transforms every moment into an occasion. Got a headache? Just add bubbles. Lost your keys? Coca-Cola. Bored with your spouse? Try sharing a soda. Now with 10% more romance and 30% more legal. Stimulants, it's hard to escape. Billboards rise on every corner, and inside, the shelves are a riot of bright labels. Delicious and refreshing. Vitalizes, beautifies, and sometimes electrifies. The pharmacy is a wonderland of unregulated claims. Each label seems to shout louder than the next, promising more sparkle per ounce than a 4th of July parade. Children beg their parents for a taste. Parents nod, remembering that it settles the nerves and is recommended by 9 out of 10 imaginary doctors. For businesses, the advertising blitz is a blessing and a curse. On the one hand, customers flood in, convinced that a soda a day will keep the existential dread away. On the other, the pressure is on to out-hype the competition. Rival soda brands promise even greater miracles, touting their unique formulas and superior effervescence. Rumors fly that a single sip of the newest drink can teach you to dance, sing, or at least stay awake through your niece's piano recital. And the best part? Nobody's worried about what's actually in the bottle. If your hands start to shake halfway through your second glass, that's not a problem. It's a feature. May cause a bit of excitement, the fine print might admit, but only after you've reorganized the pantry and started writing your memoirs. If you experience spontaneous tap dancing, congratulations. You're living the dream as promised. So, next time you roll your eyes at a modern commercial, remember the original advertising blitz. Bold, beautiful, blissfully unregulated, and just a little bit magical, because in 1901, a great ad could sell you anything, even a nervous system reboot in a bottle. Sooner or later, someone asks, should our children be drinking this? The answer is, probably not. But first, the Pure Food and Drug Act is coming for your soda, and the party is about to get a little less lively. Let's set the scene. It's the early 1900s, and for a while, nobody asks questions. If it bubbles and gives you the urge to alphabetize your neighbor's garden, it must be good for you. But as the years roll on, a nagging little voice starts whispering in the back of America's collective mind, maybe right after someone's grandma makes her 5th pie with invigorating syrup, and the entire church social spends the afternoon jitterbugging and blinking at an alarming rate. The whispers become rumors. The rumors become headlines. Doctors, teachers, and a handful of very tired parents begin to notice that the neighborhood is a little too energetic. Little Billy hasn't blinked in 3 hours, and Mrs. Wainwright's embroidery circle is producing more pillowcases than a sweatshop. Somewhere, a pharmacist watches as another customer asks for their 3rd bottle of nerve tonic this week and wonders, just for a moment, if this might not be the best idea. The American government, ever so slightly behind the curve, starts to take an interest. The Pure Food and Drug Act of 1906 is drafted, debated, and, after a few lobbyist-sponsored soda tastings, eventually passed. Suddenly, food and beverage companies are required to list ingredients, and selling secret formulas with unpronounceable, side-effect-laden substances becomes a little more complicated. The golden age of anything goes wellness is coming to a close, and with it, the era of mystery drinks that double as science experiments. Now, for the first time, a light shines on what's really in that fizzy glass. Sugar, caffeine, flavorings, and several milligrams of pure cocaine. The public is shocked, or at least they act shocked in between bouts of cleaning out the attic and composing lengthy letters to the editor. The big soda companies, led by Coca-Cola, do what any self-respecting business would do: panic, deny, and finally, frantically rebrand. The cocaine in Coca-Cola becomes a dirty word, and companies scramble to decocainize their formulas. Executives assure the public that their drinks are now wholesome and pure, even as they quietly replace one central nervous stimulant with another. Hello, extra caffeine. The advertisements, always optimistic, start focusing on words like refreshing and family-friendly, while quietly retiring slogans like restores vitality and reanimates the dead. But it's not just about Coca-Cola. The government sweeps through the whole patent medicine industry, rounding up the worst offenders and forcing them to admit, at least in small print, that their miracle elixirs may not actually contain real gold, youth, or a solution to existential despair. Bottles of cough syrup, once more potent than a jazz musician's after-party, are quietly reformulated to be only moderately habit-forming. Of course, not everyone is happy. Some customers complain that the new Coke just doesn't give them the same urge to write symphonies at 3 in the morning or finally clean out the chicken coop. Soda jerks, robbed of their most exciting ingredient. Learn to console customers with a little extra syrup and a knowing wink. It's still got pep, they promise, just a little less zip. And thus, the great cocaine crackdown closes an era of wide-eyed optimism and opens one of caution, labels, and just a little less spontaneous tap dancing. The country moves forward, safer, slightly more regulated, and maybe, just maybe, finally ready for a good night's sleep. So, the next time you grumble about big government sticking its nose in your snacks, just remember, it's probably the reason your soda doesn't come with a side of existential self-discovery and a court-mandated nap. And that's probably for the best. Probably. Spoiler. It's more than a modern street drug. A glass of 1900 Coca-Cola could get you halfway to enlightenment and all the way to a new understanding of buzz marketing. Let's not sugarcoat it, even though they absolutely did. The original Coca-Cola wasn't just an afternoon pick-me-up. It was a full-blown, pharmacy-grade rocket launch for your nervous system. Forget zero sugar or maximum taste, we're talking maximum velocity. Every syrupy glass at the turn of the century was laced with enough pure coca extract to make Freud start taking notes, and your local preacher start questioning free will. But how much cocaine are we talking about, really? Well, step right up to the marble counter and grab a stool, because this is not your modern caffeine fix. Estimates from historical recipes and early company records suggest that every 8-ounce serving of classic Coca-Cola contained anywhere from 3.5 to 7 milligrams of actual cocaine. For context, that's several times the amount you'd find in a therapeutic dose from your local doctor, back when the therapy was to give you more housework to do because you clearly weren't jittery enough already. And it wasn't just the dose. It was the frequency. You didn't stop at one glass. Soda fountains thrived on refills, and nobody kept track. Kids drank it, grandmas drank it, and exhausted office workers went for their third glass before noon. This was the era of bottomless soda, and every serving came with a free side of wide-eyed optimism and the sudden urge to start a jazz band. But don't just picture the average customer as a giddy Victorian housewife. Early Coca-Cola was prescribed for everything. Headaches, fatigue, stomach troubles, loss of nerve power, and the general malaise that came from living through decades without indoor plumbing. The prescription was simple. 1 glass, whenever you felt down. If you still felt down, have another. If you felt up, congratulations. You're probably inventing modern tap dancing as we speak. As the beverage gained popularity, so did its punchline. Journalists joked that Coca-Cola was the happiest drink on earth. Some clever advertisers even leaned into it with slogans like, "It picks you up," which, in hindsight, was probably an understatement. The difference between Coke and street drugs wasn't the chemistry. It was the branding, the glassware, and the promise that this was good for you. The line between medicine and merriment was so blurry, most people just tap danced across it and called it a day. Of course, the public didn't think much about dosage. It was the Gilded Age after all. If a little bit was good, then more was obviously better. Patent medicine culture encouraged self-experimentation, and the most daring recipes encouraged at-home mixology. Think Coca-Cola punch for garden parties, or invigorating syrups on your morning pancakes. You might say breakfast was the most exciting meal of the day, and your only regret was that nobody had invented brunch yet. When the first rumblings of government regulation arrived, people were genuinely surprised. Who could have guessed that a drink sold for nervous exhaustion might actually contribute to nervous exhaustion? The Coca-Cola company, sensing a shift in the cultural breeze, began to decocainize their formula in secret, quietly, cautiously, and with just enough sleight of hand to keep the legend alive. Even after the cocaine was mostly removed by 1929, people swore the drink still had a magic quality. Maybe it was nostalgia. Maybe it was caffeine. Maybe it was just relief that they could finally sleep. So next time you see a vintage Coke bottle at an antique shop, remember, you're looking at the world's most famous pick-me-up, a drink that made buzz marketing a literal experience and left a nation wondering why everyone was suddenly so productive, chatty, and very, very awake. What goes up must come down, and when Coke finally dials back the cocaine, the country gets a collective case of the shakes. The first decaf coffee drinkers nod in sympathy. Let's rewind to the early 20th century. When America was transitioning from the Wild West days of medicine, you could drink with a straw to something a little less zippy. For decades, Coca-Cola had been the nation's unofficial sponsor of pep, fueling insomniac housewives, jittery office clerks, and that one guy in your family tree who claimed to invent a new type of algebra at 3 a.m. But then the government stepped in, and everything changed. Sort of. It starts with a whisper, then a shudder. The moment the cocaine content is quietly reduced, and then eliminated, people begin to notice. The mornings feel a little foggier, the afternoons stretch a little longer, and the post-dinner urge to alphabetize the wallpaper just disappears. Nobody puts it in those words, of course. Instead, there's a strange, jittery restlessness running through the country. A collective come-down so widespread you could practically hear it in the clicking of typewriters and the sighs of soda jerks. People try to cope in their own ways. Some simply up their intake. 1 glass of Coca-Cola becomes 2, then 3, until the only thing shaking more than the ice in your glass is your left eyebrow. Others try new drinks, swapping to nerve tonics that promise a similar kick. Spoiler. Most of these also disappear soon after the first real regulations hit. Pharmacies see a minor spike in restorative teas and calmative syrups, most of which are just chamomile, with a fancy label and a dash of wishful thinking. Coffee shops sense a golden opportunity. The jittery masses, deprived of their favorite legal stimulant, drift toward the nearest percolator. But there's a catch. For every sleep-deprived soul desperate for a buzz, there's someone else, hands shaking, eyelids twitching, who's had enough. Enter decaf. It's introduced as the answer to coffee nerves. And for the first time in history, Americans voluntarily order something promising less energy, not more. It's just for the taste, they assure themselves, trying to ignore the way their bodies vibrate like a poorly tuned phonograph. Even tea gets its moment. Previously considered too gentle for the American temperament, it's now seen as a sensible alternative, a way to feel grown up without risking another bout of wide-eyed ceiling stares at midnight. Grocery stores start stocking new blends, Sleepy Time, Nerve Soothe, and definitely not cocaine. For the advertising industry, this is a conundrum. Gone are the days of promising tap dance energy and existential euphoria. Now, the slogans focus on comfort, taste, and, crucially, rest. Enjoy Coca-Cola, now with more tranquility. Refreshment you can sleep on. It's the birth of a gentler, softer Coke era, one that nods politely to your nerves instead of setting them on fire. But it isn't all bad news. Out of this national case of the jitters, new rituals are born. Evening wind-downs become a thing. The after-dinner walk replaces the after-dinner jitterbug. Families gather for board games instead of midnight barn raising. The nation discovers hobbies that don't involve reorganizing the process. Pantry at 3 a.m. The phrase "good night's sleep" becomes more than just a vague rumor passed down by ancestors. Of course, not everyone adapts gracefully. There are stories of old-timers hoarding bottles of pre-1906 syrup just in case. And a few home chemists attempt to bring the magic back, resulting in several incidents involving kitchen explosions and a visit from the local fire brigade. By the time the dust settles, America is a little calmer, a little sleepier, and, depending on who you ask, a little less fun at parties. The age of the Coca-Cola come-down births a whole new culture of mild pick-me-ups, gentle herbal teas, and decaf everything. It's not quite as wild, but at least everyone can blink again. So the next time you reach for a mug of herbal tea or a can of decaf, raise a sleepy salute to your ancestors, survivors of the great jitter withdrawal, and the first true masters of winding down. Coca-Cola's secret formula becomes the most heavily guarded recipe since the Colonel's 11 herbs and spices. What changed? What stayed? And did anyone actually notice, or were they too busy gnawing on the furniture? Let's wander through the shadowy world of corporate espionage, pre-World War I edition. As soon as the government comes knocking about that whole accidentally medicating the entire population thing, Coca-Cola HQ transforms from a bubbly soda lab into a full-blown fortress of secrecy. The company realizes that the formula is more than just a recipe. It's their ticket to world domination, or at least, world fizziness. The vault is legendary. Some say it's buried beneath Atlanta, guarded by ex-circus strongmen and the ghost of Dr. Pemberton. In reality, the original handwritten recipe is stored in a nondescript bank vault, access strictly limited to a handful of executives who have signed so many non-disclosure agreements they probably can't order lunch without a lawyer. The legend only grows. Two people are allowed to know the full formula at any given time, and they can never fly on the same plane. Whether this is true or just an exceptionally paranoid HR policy is up for debate. But what actually changed? By 1906, the cocaine is out, at least officially. In comes extra caffeine, a little more sugar, and some minor adjustments to the 7X flavoring that still sounds like something you'd buy at a magician's supply shop. The new recipe swaps out the forbidden fruit of coca leaf for a decocainized version, same exotic origin, far less risk of accidentally launching yourself into a 3-day wallpaper hanging spree. They also double down on the other aromatics. Citrus, vanilla, cinnamon, a whiff of coriander, and whatever else they can find in the world's most mysterious spice rack. Meanwhile, the branding gets even more protective. Every competitor on the market is trying to reverse engineer the real thing. From local soda jerks with home chemistry sets to actual chemists who have never had so many volunteers for a taste test. The company responds by doubling down on secrecy. Factory workers don't know what's in the next room. Syrup mixers are sworn to silence. The delivery driver is blindfolded, spun around 3 times, and only then allowed to drive his wagon to the next stop. And yet, despite all the drama, what's remarkable is how little actually changes on the surface. The new Coke tastes familiar. It looks familiar. It fizzes in just the right way and still pairs perfectly with a hot dog at the county fair. If there's a difference, it's hard to pinpoint unless you have the palate of a Michelin-starred chef or a particularly opinionated grandmother. Most Americans don't notice at all. They're too busy working, raising families, and yes, occasionally gnawing on the furniture while wondering why life seems just a little more mellow than it used to. The myth only grows with every passing decade. Tour guides whisper about the locked vault. Advertising campaigns hint at the magic of the recipe. Interns at Coca-Cola headquarters speculate about a secret society. And the formula becomes the holy grail of the beverage world. Every few years, a daring journalist claims to have uncovered the real formula, only to be met with silence, a firm denial, and possibly a package of coupons for free soda as hush money. It's the ultimate marketing trick. By making the formula secret, Coca-Cola makes it legendary. Competitors flounder, customers stay loyal, and the company's mystique swells with every year the recipe stays hidden and every rumor that swirls around it. So next time you crack open a can, consider, you're drinking from a recipe more fiercely protected than the nuclear codes, tweaked and tinkered but still cloaked in a veil of corporate myth. Whether you notice the difference or not, the formula's greatest ingredient may just be the mystery itself. The company pivots. Cocaine is out, caffeine is in. But don't worry. Your favorite beverage is still doing its part to keep America standing up long past bedtime. Let's rewind to the moment the music stopped, or at least slowed down to a slightly more reasonable tempo. With the great cocaine crackdown underway and the Pure Food and Drug Act breathing down the neck of every pharmacist in America, Coca-Cola faces a crossroads. The glory days of invigorating elixirs are ending, and the public mood is shifting from giddy optimism to, well, mild concern about the number of 8-year-olds who haven't blinked since Tuesday. For the Coca-Cola Company, the solution is classic American ingenuity with a pinch of corporate panic. The secret formula gets a top-to-bottom rethink. Coca leaves, once the star of the show, are shipped out. Not completely, of course. After all, the taste must live on. In comes a new process: decocainization. Yes, the company still sources coca leaves, but now they're scrubbed of the stuff that makes your to-do list look like a suggestion from a higher power. The flavor stays, the buzz gets toned down, and everyone at the board meeting breathes a slightly steadier sigh of relief. But here's where the company shows real flair. The caffeine dial goes up. The switch is seamless. The bottle still fizzes, still tastes like a party in your mouth, but now the pep comes courtesy of caffeine, a much friendlier and far more legal nervous system sidekick. The advertising doesn't miss a beat. Delicious and refreshing, keeps you going. It's less about rejuvenating your soul and more about helping you finish your paperwork before sunrise. Caffeine, for its part, is a team player. It keeps tired, clerks sharp, mothers bustling, students awake, and entire night shifts running smoothly. Americans take to it with their usual gusto. Sales climb. The legend of Coke only grows, and soon, even without the narcotic bonus, people swear they can taste the magic. Is it nostalgia? Is it branding? Is it the sudden urge to alphabetize your record collection at midnight? Probably all three. If you're worried the fun is over, fear not. The culture of pick-me-ups isn't going anywhere. It's just shifting gears. Pharmacies now boast entire shelves of energy drinks, coffee tonics, and stamina elixirs, most of them with more caffeine than a physics major's finals week. Coke remains king, but its empire now includes the new generation of soft drinks, Fanta, Sprite, and the like, all perfectly legal, all engineered to keep America running, chatting, and, ideally, not sleeping until absolutely necessary. The company itself takes on a new level of mystique. The secret formula is still whispered about. The vault is still locked, but now the real secret is just how much caffeine you can cram into a bottle before the FDA starts asking follow-up questions. Spoiler: it's a lot. Decaf Coke eventually appears for those who crave the taste but not the jitters, but real loyalists scoff and reach for the taste. Classic. After all, what's a cola without a little midnight restlessness? Meanwhile, the government's newfound vigilance means every ingredient is scrutinized, tested, and approved. There are lab coats, there are regulations, and there are meetings that last longer than the average attention span. But there are no more headlines about jazzed-up grandmothers winning marathons or kindergartners outlasting the family cat. Instead, there's just the soft hiss of a bottle opening, the fizz in your glass, and the promise that sleep is, once again, optional. And so, Coke survives the drug panic, sails through the caffeine boom, and emerges as the world's favorite soft drink. The legend is intact, the formula is safe, and America is, as always, wide awake. If you're up past midnight reading this, you're in good company. History's best insomniacs have always had a bottle of something fizzy by their side. Parents panic. Preachers preach. Meanwhile, teenagers everywhere are convinced Coke is the real reason for jazz, dancing, and bad decisions. The truth is, history is weirder than fiction. Let's stroll down the rumor-filled avenues of early 20th century America. A land of rapid change, humming with streetcars, jazz rhythms, and the sweet, illicit fizz of soda pop. Coca-Cola, once a humble nerve tonic, is now a full-blown cultural lightning rod. For some, it's a harmless treat. For others, it's the beginning of the end. An open invitation to moral collapse, sockless dancing, and the sort of behavior that would make your Sunday school teacher weep. By 1910, urban legends about Coke's mysterious power are everywhere. Stories circulate about otherwise respectable children drinking a bottle, then jitterbugging into the night, developing unhealthy enthusiasm for syncopation, and, heaven forbid, experimenting with the Charleston. The adults, of course, are concerned. Somewhere between Save the Children sermons and op-eds in the local paper, a new boogeyman emerges. Coca-Cola, corrupter of youth, and quite possibly the secret instigator of the jazz age. Is it the caffeine? Is it the sugar? Or is it the lingering whispers of those mysterious medicinal ingredients that got swept under the rug when the government came calling? In the popular imagination, it doesn't really matter. In the absence of facts, stories fill the void. Little Annie drank a Coke and learned to play the trumpet by ear. Young Harold had a sip and danced all the way to Memphis. For every parent clutching their pearls, there's a teenager looking for the nearest soda fountain, eager to taste rebellion in a glass. Preachers thunder from the pulpit, warning that the devil's music and the devil's drink are joined at the hip. Avoid the path of jazz and jitter. They intone, lest you be swept away by the twin scourges of syncopation and soda pop. Never mind that most church suppers serve Coca-Cola by the pitcher, and Aunt Gertrude can two-step with the best of them. What matters is the symbolism. Coke, with its bubbles and mysterious formula, is the perfect scapegoat for a generation determined to move faster, stay up later, and, most scandalous of all, think for themselves. Meanwhile, urban legends keep growing. Did Coca-Cola invent the jazz solo? Was the first marathon dance fueled by cola syrup? Can a bottle of Coke really teach you to play ragtime or make you forget your algebra homework? The lines blur between fact, fiction, and the nervous jokes of a nation facing unprecedented change. And in a way, Coke becomes the soundtrack of a restless era, just as likely to be found at a smoky dance hall as it is at a backyard picnic or a late-night study session. But here's the twist. History, as usual, is both more complicated and more ridiculous than the rumors suggest. The jazz age was born from a million influences: migration, invention, musical genius. And yes, maybe a little help from whatever was in the soda bottle. The Coca-Cola company, for its part, is happy to ride the wave, advertising to modern young people and quietly ignoring the sermons. If people want to believe their product powers midnight inspiration and questionable dance moves, who are they to argue? The end result? A new American myth. Coke is everywhere. On billboards, in club basements, at Sunday picnics, and school proms. Maybe it didn't start the jazz age, but it sure learned how to keep up with the beat. So the next time you hear a wild claim about your favorite soft drink, remember, when the world starts dancing, someone always blames the punch. And sometimes, the punch really is just a little more interesting than it looks. The formula changes, but the marketing doesn't. Now the company has to convince everyone that the new Coke is just as good, without the, extra ingredients. It's the dawn of the 20th century, and suddenly, there are rules. The government has finally shown up to the party, clipboard in hand, peering suspiciously at every glass of bubbly, caramel-colored tonic being poured across America. Coca-Cola, the former star of patent medicine and midnight house cleaning sessions, is now under the microscope. Those special ingredients, the ones that made your grandmother reorganize the attic at 2 a.m, have officially been asked to leave the building. But how do you keep the magic going when the fun part is now against the law? Enter the era of decocainized Coke, a tongue twister of a term and a masterclass in corporate pivoting. The Coca-Cola company finds itself walking a legal tightrope. They can't keep the cocaine, but they can keep the leaves. Through a complicated process known as decocainization, involving enough chemistry to make a high school teacher sweat, the coca leaves are stripped of their scandalous secret and left with only their unique flavor. The new formula has the taste, the fizz, and just enough suggestion of exotic danger to keep customers coming back. The real challenge? Selling this new version without anyone noticing, or at least without anyone caring. And so, the marketing department does what it does best: distract, reframe, and sprinkle in a healthy dose of wishful thinking. The bottle looks the same. The labels are redder, bolder, and even more patriotic. The slogans promise delicious and refreshing. And the pause that refreshes. There are cheery print ads, soda fountain posters, and endless testimonials from people who seem suspiciously well-rested. On paper, it's business as usual. In reality, it's a nationwide experiment in placebo effect. The drink may not have the same lift as before, but the ritual remains. Gather at the counter, order your Coke, enjoy the bubbles, and chat about the weather or the sudden drop in spontaneous tap dancing at the local church social. If anyone misses the old formula, they don't say it out loud, except, maybe, for Uncle Frank, who still insists that Coke used to put a little extra wind in your sails. The company's legal team, meanwhile, has become the unsung hero of the soda world. Every time Congress tightens a loophole, they find another one to wiggle through. Yes, the beverage is free of harmful narcotics. No, they absolutely will not tell you exactly how they remove the cocaine. Yes, the flavor is still authentic. No, you probably can't make it at home, unless you're a chemist with access to a heavily guarded import license and nerves of steel. Competitors seize the moment, offering alternative colas that promise real pep or traditional flavor. But Coca-Cola's head start and its mysterious, ever-shifting recipe proves unbeatable. The brand becomes more legendary with each passing year, and the decocainized process is quietly filed under trade secrets, right alongside the Colonel's chicken blend and whatever it is that keeps Twinkies fresh. There are lawsuits, of course, congressional hearings, newspaper exposés with headlines like, "What's really in your soda?" But for every critic, there are 100 loyal fans ready to defend their daily fizz. Coke, after all, isn't just a drink. It's a habit, a ritual, a little moment of happiness that can survive even the strictest regulation. And so, Coke sails into the modern age on a raft of loopholes, legal jargon, and truly unbeatable branding. The decocanized era doesn't end the love affair, it just adds another layer of mystery. If anything, the absence of the old secret ingredient makes the story even sweeter. Now, every bottle is a nod to nostalgia, a tribute to ingenuity, and proof that sometimes the real buzz comes from believing in the magic. Even when the magic's been politely escorted out the door, Coca-Cola goes global. Other countries take a sip, raise an eyebrow, and then ask for seconds. It's the beginning of worldwide brand domination and a few confused French pharmacists. Let's leave Atlanta behind for a minute and imagine a world map dotted with little red bottle caps. By the early 20th century, Coca-Cola isn't content with being the life of the American pharmacy. No, the world is thirsty, and the Coca-Cola Company is ready to quench it, with a side of American optimism and a distinctly suspicious fizz. The pitch is simple. Wherever there are people in need of refreshment, there should be Coke. It starts innocently enough. An American businessman on holiday ships a few bottles to his Parisian friends, perhaps to show off a bit of hometown pride, or just to see if anyone else will develop an unstoppable urge to tap dance. French pharmacists, who up to this point have considered a glass of wine the answer to life's every problem, regard the dark, bubbly liquid with polite skepticism. C'est quoi, ce truc? One asks. It's a tonic, replies the American, choosing not to mention the bottle's checkered past with the US government. But it's not just France. Bottles pop up in London, in Berlin, in Buenos Aires. British shopkeepers tuck them between the tea and marmalade. Argentine cafes serve Coca-Cola alongside espresso and suspicious glances. In India, the company ships the syrup. Just add local soda water and a dash of curiosity. The first taste is always a little tentative. The second, more confident. By the third, people are asking if they can have it shipped by the crate. Marketing, as ever, does the heavy lifting. American-style billboards begin to appear overseas. Radiant models, swirling fonts, and the ever-present promise of energy, refreshment, and a taste of the new world. Some translations go a bit sideways. Coca-Cola, it makes you see stars. But the spirit is the same. Coke is not just a drink, it's an invitation to join a global club, one where everyone's a little peppier and nobody ever asks if you're sleeping enough. At first, there are cultural misunderstandings. In Japan, Coca-Cola is marketed as a health beverage, which, given its roots, is technically true, sort of. In Italy, some Romans are appalled to see soda at a dinner table. Others start mixing it with red wine just to see what happens. Spoiler, the results are mixed. In Russia, a few skeptics grumble about Western decadence before quietly sneaking a second bottle when nobody's looking. Coke's global expansion is about more than just selling soda. It's exporting an idea. American-style hustle, hope, and the belief that you can bottle happiness for 5 cents. Soldiers stationed abroad drink Coke by the crate, bringing a taste of home to distant trenches and foreign outposts. Local factories spring up, bottling Coke with local water and local pride. Suddenly, it's possible to buy a bottle of Coke in Cairo, sip it while staring at the pyramids, and wonder what exactly was in the original recipe. Of course, not everyone falls in love right away. Some governments try to ban the drink, worried it's a tool of cultural imperialism. Others impose tariffs, reasoning that anything so addictive must be taxed for the public good. But resistance is futile. Coke becomes a symbol of modernity, a badge of belonging in a rapidly shrinking world. It's not just a soda, it's an accessory, a status symbol, a conversation starter. By the mid-20th century, Coca-Cola is more than American. It's global. The red and white logo glows from Tokyo to Timbuktu, an unbreakable promise that wherever you are, there's a cold, fizzy bottle and a little hit of American-style enthusiasm waiting for you. So next time you hear Coca-Cola spoken in a dozen different accents, remember, this is the drink that taught the world how to smile, fizz, and occasionally stay up just a little too late. Coca-Cola's journey mirrors America's century-long love affair with anything that promises a boost. From energy drinks to coffee shops, the spirit of 1900 lives on, just slightly less jittery. Let's take a drowsy stroll through the American psyche, where I need a pick-me-up is less a statement and more a cultural mission. The country that once started each day with a glass of Coke, laced with pharmaceutical-grade optimism, has never really put down the bottle. Sure, the formulas have changed, and the FDA is now in the habit of reading the fine print, but the essential craving remains. Something to help you wake up, get moving, and keep going, preferably with a catchy slogan. It started with Coca-Cola's magical mixture, but it didn't stop there. In the Roaring Twenties, prohibitionists tried to scrub away the old vices, only to see coffee shops and soda fountains take their place. Soon after, diners popped up everywhere, pouring bottomless cups of coffee and spinning new tales of all-night productivity. Decades pass. Office culture blossoms. Now, every workplace is measured by the strength of its coffee pot and the proximity of the nearest vending machine. Corporate life becomes a parade of coffee breaks and afternoon sodas, each one just a little less innocent than it looks. By the late 20th century, the market explodes with options. Caffeinated gum, sports drinks that promise to electrify your insides, energy shots that come in bottles smaller than your thumb and taste like optimism mixed with regret. Soda, meanwhile, gets a makeover. Diet, cherry, vanilla, with or without caffeine, and sometimes featuring flavors no one ever asked for. The packaging gets louder, the ads get wilder, but the core message never changes. You're tired, and we can fix that. And America listens. Studies show Americans drink hundreds of millions of cups of coffee per day and billions of gallons of soda per year. A new breed of energy drink conquers the shelves, each one daring you to stay up just a little bit longer. Monster, Red Bull, Rockstar, 5-Hour Energy. There are even brands that warn you not to mix them with other brands, lest you accidentally invent time travel. The culture of grind and hustle is fueled by a constant drip of stimulants, so normalized that skipping your morning coffee is considered a radical act of rebellion, or possibly just a sign you're already a ghost. All the while, the ghost of 1900 Coca-Cola floats cheerfully through American kitchens and break rooms. The pursuit of the perfect pick-me-up is everywhere, from Starbucks loyalty cards to YouTube influencers taste-testing new focus drinks. There's always a new promise, a new shortcut to wakefulness, a new reason to push off that nap. And still, every now and then, someone claims they've quit caffeine, only to show up 3 weeks later with a thermos the size of a flower vase and a haunted look in their eye. Of course, every cultural trend eventually meets its hangover. America has cycled through decaf crazes, clean eating, and entire wellness movements urging people to slow down, hydrate, and embrace the power of a good nap. Health gurus recommend herbal tea, yoga, and apps that play whale noises. But somehow, nothing quite replaces the collective jolt of a carbonated, caffeinated, or otherwise peppy beverage. So here we are, a nation still chasing the high of that first forbidden bottle. The drinks are safer, the side effects are milder, but the craving for energy, real or imagined, remains. In some ways, it's reassuring to know that even after a century, America is still looking for a little extra spark. So tonight, as you wind down, remember, whether it's a cup of chamomile or a late-night soda, you're participating in a grand American tradition, the search for just one more second of alertness. Sleep tight. Or don't. There's always coffee in the morning. Family legends get blurry. Did Great-Uncle Albert really run a mile in under 4 minutes after breakfast? Was Grandma's secret to longevity actually just staying hydrated with a little extra pep? Every family has a storyteller. The cousin who swears their ancestors were tougher, funnier, and just a little bit wilder than anyone today. And when it comes to the golden age of Coca-Cola, the stories only get taller with each retelling. Your grandfather once drank 6 bottles before church and played the organ so fast the choir just gave up and went home. Your great-grandmother could outdance the entire town, then knit a sweater before lunch, thanks to her special breakfast tonic. The line between truth and caffeine-fueled fiction is as fuzzy as a radio signal during a thunderstorm. But let's take a sleepy step back and consider what life really looked like in the era of medicinal beverages. For many Americans in the late 1800s and early 1900s, a glass of Coca-Cola wasn't just a treat. It was a ritual, a pick-me-up, and sometimes a competitive sport. The original recipe was packed with more pep than a marching band. And it's entirely possible that your ancestors did, in fact, wake up, work a 12-hour shift, and still find time to build a porch and host a dance, all before supper. There's a reason so many family legends from this era feature feats of unlikely energy, superhuman productivity, or marathon house cleaning. The tonics and elixirs that fueled these days weren't just loaded with sugar and caffeine. They were, at times, a pharmacy-grade science experiment in a bottle. Stories about Grandma's legendary stamina make a little more sense when you realize her morning health syrup was essentially the 1901 equivalent of downing 3 energy drinks and a questionable supplement. But as time passes, these stories evolve. Decades later, as the formula changed and the government took the more adventurous ingredients off the market, the next generation started to look back and wonder, were our grandparents superhuman or just chemically optimistic? Did Great-Uncle Albert actually run that fast, or did he just feel like he could after his 3rd glass? Was Grandma's secret to longevity hydration, or a side effect of being too awake to sit still? There's no shortage of family myths to untangle. Some tales insist the original Coke cured all ailments, from headaches to heartbreaks to an impressive run of spelling bee victories. Others claim it made you see sounds and taste colors. One uncle swears by the time he was a boy, the local soda jerk could lift a horse. He couldn't, but he probably tried. Every family's photo album has at least one black and white shot of a suspiciously energetic ancestor, eyes wide, possibly mid-jig. And yet, the real magic isn't in the ingredients. It's in the memories. These stories become the shorthand for family resilience, grit, and the good kind of ridiculousness. Whether Grandpa's exploits were fueled by chemistry or sheer willpower, the heart of the legend is the same. People made the best of what they had, found joy where they could, and always made time to dance a little, sometimes with help from a soda fountain. So, next time someone at a family reunion raises an eyebrow and asks if those wild stories are really true, just smile and nod. Maybe Great-Uncle Albert did break the sound barrier after a hearty breakfast. Maybe Grandma's secret was hydration all along. Or maybe, just maybe, they were both powered by a little extra sparkle in their glass and a lot of love in their hearts. After all, if you can't believe in your own family legends, what's the point of staying up late to hear them? Sleep well and let the myths keep you company. From medicine to mayhem to mass-market soft drink, Coca-Cola's wild century is a testament to America's ability to reinvent itself and to never pass up a good buzz, legal or otherwise. Cheers. It's hard to imagine a world without Coca-Cola, a universe where dinner parties lack their signature clink, sporting events go unfizzed, and sleepy afternoons drift on without the gentle encouragement of a chilled, caramel-colored bottle. Yet, the story of Coke isn't just about a drink. It's the epic saga of a country that never met a reinvention it didn't love, especially when it involved just a hint of chaos and a healthy dose of marketing wizardry. Let's recap. It started as a nervous pharmacist's experiment, a desperate attempt to find relief from war wounds and morphine addiction. Dr. John Pemberton's original concoction was part science, part wild optimism, and a whole lot of why not. 1 pinch of coca, 1 dash of cola nut, a handful of secret herbs, a scoop of sugar, and just enough vanilla to make you wonder if you were drinking dessert or auditioning for a medical trial. The result, a syrup that tasted like hope, promised vitality, and delivered well, something between enlightenment and insomnia. What followed was nothing short of a beverage revolution. In the marble-clad soda fountains of Atlanta and beyond, Americans lined up for their dose of nerve tonic, unknowingly riding a nationwide experiment in energy and excess. The formula shifted, the regulations tightened, and still Coke bounced back, swapping out the more questionable ingredients for caffeine, sugar, and a level of brand loyalty that most politicians would sell their grandmothers for. Through wars, depressions, prohibition, and the kind of public panic that comes from realizing your children have been drinking brain tonic before breakfast, Coca-Cola stayed bubbly. But the secret to Coke's enduring power isn't just chemistry. It's adaptability. The drink that started as a medicine quickly became a symbol of American optimism, of hustle, of never saying no to a refill, bottled lightning at a nickel a pop. When the world demanded moderation, Coke invented decocainized cola and kept the party going with just enough caffeine to keep Main Street buzzing. When the world wanted convenience, Coke left the fountain and filled every fridge from Anchorage to Zanzibar. And when the world wanted connection, Coke's red and white logo taught the planet to sing, fizz, and, occasionally, stay up all night reorganizing the pantry. With each decade, the legend grew. Myths, family stories, and urban legends filled in the gaps. Grandpa running marathons before noon, Grandma's secret to long life, the wild rumors that a single glass could teach you to tap dance or invent jazz. It didn't really matter if any of it was true. The magic was in the mystery, and in the ritual of sharing a Coke, passing the bottle, and watching the bubbles rise. Coca-Cola became the drink that everyone knew, everyone tried, and everyone at some point counted on to make life just a little bit brighter, funnier, or more energetic. It's the legal high that survived not by hiding but by evolving, by promising, with every ad, that life is better with a little fizz, that whatever you're facing, you can handle it, with a glass in hand and a hopeful heart. So here's to the last sip, a tribute to ingenuity, stubborn joy, and the world's most famous, ever-changing bottle of Slashin' Buzz. May your evenings be gentle, your stories outrageous, and your pantry always stocked with something just a little bit magical. Sleep tight, and if you're still awake, well, maybe cut back on the cola tomorrow. In 1901, the phrase home remedy meant more than chicken soup and a hot water bottle. It was a licensed experiment in accidental pharmacology. Grandma's kitchen doubled as a chemistry lab, where children were encouraged to drink tonics with labels that read like a dare. You think you've made questionable decisions on WebMD? Try washing down a headache with a tablespoon of syrup that lists both alcohol and coca extract as the first two ingredients. Step into any respectable turn-of-the-century household, and you're greeted by the sight of glass bottles lining the pantry shelves. Their contents as mysterious as the handwriting on the labels: Aunt Mabel's spleen tonic, Uncle Henry's nerve syrup, Mother's instant invigoration, elixir, each concoction brewed with the care of a witch, the confidence of a pharmacist, and the scientific rigor of someone who learned chemistry from the back of a seed packet. No one worried much about dosage. Just a spoonful, dear, was the universal prescription. Whether you were battling a mild cold, the blues, or an existential crisis brought on by too many root vegetables, children were given soothing syrup for teething, which contained enough morphine to guarantee silence at nap time and enough coca to power them straight through till morning. Adults were not immune. Fatigue, heartbreak, backache, boredom, and insomnia all received the same treatment: a cordial, a drop, or a dash of whatever was simmering in the family cauldron. Recipes were passed down like folklore, only slightly less reliable. One relative's surefire stomach settler might contain peppermint, ginger, and a secret splash of whiskey. Another swore by a nightly cup of sleep cordial, equal parts warm milk and sherry, seasoned with enough nutmeg to stun a moose. Even the family dog got in on the action, with animal tonic for fleas, rumored to also cure shyness, selective hearing, and a tendency to chase chickens. Magazines and newspapers were no help. Advice columns confidently prescribed home-brewed liniments for joint pain. Rub vigorously, twice daily, with an oil that may or may not be lamp fuel, and homemade lozenges for coughs, sometimes spiked with just a trace of laudanum, purely for medicinal purposes, of course. The line between wellness and recreational chemistry was as blurry as the label on a bottle of revitalizing vinegar tonic left too long in the sundae. Every kitchen cabinet was a choose-your-own-adventure story. There were no child-proof caps, only hope. Little glass vials and brown bottles crowded next to the flour and sugar, some bought from the apothecary, others mixed on a rainy afternoon by Grandpa, who swore by the healing powers of wild chicory and anise, and definitely not by reading the instructions. The instructions, if they existed, usually said something like, "For best results, use with faith and a slice of pie." When a neighbor fell ill, a steady stream of casseroles, cakes, and cough syrups appeared at the door. Community healing was a full-contact sport. There were as many remedies as there were ailments, and no problem was too small or too mysterious to merit a glass of peptonic. If the first bottle didn't work, try a second, or switch to someone else's family recipe, guaranteed to be just the thing for whatever ailed you. Sure, a few things could go wrong, like the occasional kitchen explosion or the time Cousin Martha accidentally fell asleep for 2 days after an overly generous spoonful of sleepy syrup. But overall, the spirit was one of endless optimism, stubborn resourcefulness, and the deep-seated belief that every problem could be solved with a tincture, a poultice, and just a little more faith. So tonight, as you reach for your over-the-counter headache medicine, remember your ancestors, the true pioneers of home wellness, who bravely dosed, sipped, and survived. Sometimes, just barely. Welcome to the world of the soda jerk, a job description that falls somewhere between barista, bartender, and undercover stimulant supplier. Your uniform is starched, your bow tie is tight, and your main task is to make sure nobody asks what's really in the syrup. Every shift is a performance, equal parts mixing drinks and pretending you didn't just see someone's grandmother order her third fortifying glass before noon. Step behind the marble counter, and you'll find yourself in the beating heart of American social life, circa 1901. The soda fountain isn't just a business, it's a stage, and you, the soda jerk, are its master of ceremonies. The day begins early. With the clatter of glasses and the hiss of carbonated water, a symphony of seltzer and syrup. You learn quickly that it's less about following recipes and more about improvising with whatever you have left in the back room, and a generous helping of showmanship. The regulars arrive like clockwork. School kids rush in with pennies clutched tight, demanding the fizziest, brightest, most dangerous flavor you can concoct. Housewives linger for a pick-me-up, speaking in code about nerves and tiredness, which, in 1901, means they need a glass of something that will let them finally finish darning all those socks. Factory workers pile in at lunch, looking for liquid relief from a morning spent wrestling with machines. Businessmen trade gossip over glasses of cola, their conversation crackling as much as the drinks. And then there are the true aficionados, the grandmothers and grandfathers, pillars of the community, who make it a point to be first in line every morning. Their orders are always precise, sometimes suspiciously so. Just a splash more syrup, dear. Could you make it extra strong today? They know the tricks, the best way to mix a phosphate, the perfect ratio for a nerve tonic, which counter stool has the least wobble. They also know, with uncanny precision, when a new shipment of cola syrup is due. Your tools are simple but essential. The long-handled mixing spoon, the glass shaker, the heavy ice scoop, and, of course, your wits. The trickiest part of the job? Timing. Every glass must be poured at just the right moment for maximum fizz. Too soon and the bubbles escape. Too late, and the crowd starts getting restless. And restlessness, as every soda jerk knows, is contagious. On a slow afternoon, you polish glasses and eavesdrop on 1,000 stories. A young couple nervously splitting a sundae, a mother bribing her child to sit still with a promise of extra cherry syrup, the pharmacist himself stepping out for his daily restorative, which seems to contain more restoration than the average person can handle. Your job is to keep the peace, keep the drinks flowing, and never, ever reveal what exactly goes into the house special. You learn to handle emergencies. Sudden syrup shortages? Just smile and recommend the new citrus tonic. Too many customers and not enough stools? Offer a standing room special with a side of gossip. If a glass breaks, it's a chance to demonstrate your impressive sweeping skills. And, if you're lucky, score a slice of sympathy pie from the bakery next door. Sometimes, there are moments of genuine crisis. Someone's had too many refills and is now composing poetry about the beauty of the ceiling tiles. A group of teenagers is daring each other to try the strongest drink you've got. You handle it all with a practiced nod and another round of sodas. At the end of the day, your bow tie might be crooked and your hands sticky with syrup, but you've survived another shift, and so has the community. The world may never know what really went into those drinks. But one thing's certain. Behind every great soda fountain was a soda jerk, equal parts chemist, entertainer, and secret keeper, pouring a little joy, one mysterious glass at a time. It's the dawn of the 20th century, and parenting advice is mostly, if it cries, give it a tonic. Enter baby formulas with trace elements of coca and opiates, advertised as soothing for colicky infants and exhausted mothers alike. No one worries about screen time, but there's a 50-50 chance that your child's first words are just really fast. Step into a sunlit parlor, where lace curtains flutter, and the air is thick with the scent of talcum powder and very, very questionable science. The shelves are lined with bottles promising miracles for restless infants and nervous mothers. Labels glow with confidence. Dr. Bliss's infant soother, Mrs. Winslow's syrup, Quiet Night's formula. The instructions are simple. If your bundle of joy is fussy, fretful, or showing signs of developing opinions, pour, dose, and hope for the best. The great baby formula boom is upon us. At the time, the science of infant nutrition was basically try everything and see what keeps the baby quiet the longest. Pediatricians, pharmacists, and advertising men all compete to claim the perfect blend. Unfortunately, many of these concoctions are less nutrition and more late-night chemistry experiment. Coca extract, morphine, codeine, and enough alcohol to make nap time last until the morning milking. All perfectly legal, available at the pharmacy, and recommended by the finest testimonials money could buy. Mothers, faced with cranky babies and a full day of housework, quickly become connoisseurs. Some formulas promise to soothe digestive distress, others claim to relax nerves, or promote natural sleep. If the baby seems extra mellow after a dose, that's just good mothering. If the baby develops the sudden urge to recite the Gettysburg Address before breakfast, well, that's advanced development. The side effects are, shall we say, variable. Babies nap for record lengths. Toddlers skip crawling and proceed directly to interpretive dance. Playgroups become suspiciously quiet, except for the one child who's alphabetizing the blocks at lightning speed. A few children are reported to have slept through teething, 2 birthdays, and the Spanish-American War. Pediatricians reassure parents this is all perfectly normal, provided they keep buying the same brand. Meanwhile, exhausted mothers get in on the act. That bottle of soothing syrup comes with a recommended adult dose. After all, running a household without modern appliances or indoor plumbing takes stamina. A spoonful here, a dash there, and suddenly laundry day seems less daunting, and family dinner is prepared with impressive, if slightly frantic, enthusiasm. Husbands joke that the house has never been cleaner, the baby has never been quieter, and the pie crusts have never been rolled so quickly. Marketing, of course, does its part. Advertisements show angelic babies blissfully sleeping, mothers smiling with the serene calm of someone who hasn't heard a tantrum in weeks. Slogans boast, gentle as a mother's touch, and trusted by generations. What the ads don't mention is the gentle hum of nervous energy, or the baby's newly acquired taste for staring intensely at the wallpaper. Doctors, at first, are all in. Medical journals fill with glowing testimonials about the wonders of coca-based formulas. Gradually, a few voices of concern emerge. Is it possible, some wonder, that these magical elixirs are doing more than just soothing babies? By the time regulation catches up, generations of American children have become expert nappers, and the entire nation has developed a taste for solving problems with the help of a little something extra. It all sounds outrageous, but in a world without Wi-Fi, noise machines, or Peppa Pig, these remedies offered the promise of peace and quiet, even if they also delivered a mild case of the jitters. So next time you hear stories of the good old days, remember, behind every quiet nursery was a bottle of syrup, a desperate parent, and the secret hope that, just this once, everyone might sleep through the night. Competition is fierce, and Coca-Cola is not the only drink in town promising a good time and restored vitality. Everywhere you turn, patent medicines offer liquid solutions for everything from melancholy to a stubbed toe, toothache drops that could fell a horse, elixirs for nervous exhaustion, and all of it available without a prescription, ID, or a single raised eyebrow. Let's wander through the bustling world of 1901 pharmacy shelves, where the pursuit of energy, pep, and sheer get up and go is as American as apple pie, if apple pie could also double as a performance enhancer. There's no shortage of competitors eager to cash in on the nation's collective case of the sleepies. Every bottle, box, and tin claims to be nature's perfect tonic, and the only thing more potent than the formulas are the promises printed in 12-point font on every label. Start with toothache drops. The kind that not only numb the pain, but could probably get you a date with the circus. The leading brands contain more cocaine, opium, or morphine than a modern pharmacy would sell in a year. Parents hand them to teething children with the same concern you'd use for a spoonful of applesauce. He's a little cranky today, they say, moments before their toddler does a backflip off the rocking chair and proceeds to alphabetize the cat. Not to be outdone, every apothecary stocks shelves with nerve elixirs, catchy names like Dr. Feelgood's invigorating syrup and Aunt Gertie's supreme Nevine. The ingredients are a blur of botanicals, caffeine, coca, and just a dash of don't ask too many questions. One sip, and suddenly your headache is gone, your dishes are done, and you're pretty sure you can recite the Gettysburg Address backward. Housewives, salesmen, and factory workers all swear by their preferred brand, and switching allegiances is enough to cause a family feud. But the real magic lies in the marketing. Restores the bloom of youth, prevents melancholy, ennui, and laziness. Just the thing for the delicate and the overtaxed. If you ever doubted the power of a well-written slogan, a stroll through the nerve-tonic aisle would convince you otherwise. Everyone's tired, everyone's stressed, and everyone is looking for a shortcut to feeling just a little more superhuman. Of course, Coca-Cola isn't just resting on its fizzy laurels. The company ups the ante with bold claims of its own, curing headaches, exhaustion of mind and body, and the general dissatisfaction of living in a world where the average workday runs from sunup to sundown. The secret? A blend of sugar, caffeine, and coca leaf extract potent enough to make your morning chores feel like a dance break. And if you're worried about side effects, don't be. According to the ads, the only risk is excessive happiness and the occasional, uncontrollable urge to rearrange your pantry. Competitors race to keep up, each offering a new twist. Wine tonics for creative minds, ginger elixirs for the modern man, and liver pills for those troubled by fatigue and the burdens of civilization. There's a remedy for every possible woe, and more than a few you've never heard of. Lost your appetite? There's a syrup for that. Feeling unfashionably sluggish? One dose and you'll be leading the town parade. Looking back, it's hard not to be impressed by the sheer enthusiasm with which America chased the perfect pick-me-up. Everyone was an amateur chemist, a hopeful optimist, and, most importantly, a loyal customer. The pharmacies may have been the Wild West of wellness, but they kept the country moving, buzzing, and, just occasionally, levitating with energy. So tonight, as you reach for your mild evening tea, remember, you're the descendant of people who drank their way through history's wildest liquid competition, one pick-me-up at a time. As Coke's popularity explodes, the nation's moral guardians begin to notice that their congregations are twitchier than usual. Sermons are preached, newspaper editorials are penned, and suddenly everyone wants to know if soda is turning children into jittery delinquents. It's the first wave of beverage backlash, before energy drinks, before Monster, before that one guy at work who claims his blood type is cold brew. Let's set the scene. It's a sleepy Sunday morning in small-town America. The preacher steps up to the pulpit, clutching not just his Bible but a copy of the Atlanta Journal. The congregation fidgets. Little Billy is vibrating in the pew, his eyes wider than a dinner plate, and Mrs. Jenkins whispers that she hasn't seen her children sit still since they started going to the soda fountain after school. Brothers and sisters, the preacher intones, the devil comes in many forms. Sometimes he is cold, bubbly, and served over ice. The press isn't far behind. Editorials with titles like, "Is Your Child Too Perky?" and "The Secret Ingredient in Your Soda," "Scandal or Salvation," start appearing in every newspaper that also runs recipes for gingerbread and ads for laudanum. Journalists compete for the juiciest angle, painting vivid pictures of a generation undone by the bottle. Except this bottle is found in the pharmacy, and, instead of whiskey, it's cola. Mothers worry. Teachers notice spelling tests completed at suspicious speeds. By the time a report surfaces that a 9-year-old set a state record for hopscotch endurance, the stage is set for panic. Organizations form. The Temperance League, having mostly won its battle against whiskey, pivots smoothly to cola. Committees are created, research is commissioned, and small armies of volunteers are dispatched to count the number of soda bottles left on park benches. The beverage, once hailed as a wholesome alternative to alcohol, is now cast as a new and more insidious threat. A drink that can't get you drunk, but might just keep you from ever sleeping again. The response from soda lovers is equal parts amusement and indignation. Soda jerks mutter about the good old days when the only controversy was whether you put a cherry in your phosphate. Local pharmacies begin offering decaf and sugar-free options which, to everyone's disappointment, taste like sadness and missed opportunities. Grandmothers continue to swear by their morning tonic, rolling their eyes at every sermon and waving off reporters with a flourish of their lace handkerchiefs. Meanwhile, advertisers sense an opportunity. Pure, wholesome, recommended by most doctors, the posters shout, with reassuring pictures of bright-eyed children and serene mothers. Coca-Cola runs campaigns featuring testimonials from ministers who claim to drink a glass every day and have never felt more energized to fight sin and bake pies. Rival companies try to outdo one another with slogans like, "Our soda won't make you sin, it might make you dance or drink sparkle fizz, and think pure thoughts." But the whisper campaign continues. Urban legends spread. Some say soda stunts your growth. Some claim it can make your hair curly or your morals wobbly. Parlor games are played where the loser must drink a glass of cola and attempt to sit still for 10 minutes, a feat rarely accomplished. Even the government gets involved, proposing labeling requirements and, at one point, a National Soda Awareness Week. And yet, the backlash, like all good panics, eventually runs out of steam. People keep drinking. The world keeps spinning. Billy learns to channel his energy into track and field. Mrs. Jenkins decides her kids were always a little strange. Even before cola, the preacher, privately, develops a taste for just a little sip on a hot day, strictly for medicinal purposes. So the next time someone clutches their pearls over the latest beverage trend, remember, every generation needs something to blame, and every glass of soda comes with a side of moral panic. Sometimes, that's just part of the fun. So tonight, as you close your eyes and settle deeper into the present, where the wildest thing in your soda is maybe a little too much caffeine, take a quiet moment to marvel at the beautiful, bizarre resilience of humanity. We survived an era when refreshment could mean accidentally joining Sigmund Freud in the world's first jazzercise class, and when a trip to the pharmacy could leave you wide awake for 3 days and ready to paint your house twice. Think of the millions of ordinary people who lined up at marble counters, trusting a dapper soda jerk with their day, their digestion, and sometimes their connection to the cosmos. There's a kind of hilarity in it. The world's most beloved beverage started as a not-so-subtle chemistry experiment, fizzing with optimism, snake oil, and just a pinch. Okay, a heap of pharmaceutical mischief. The streets buzzed, the nights stretched long, and somehow, against all logic and regulation, people adapted. They kept sipping, kept dancing, kept inventing new ways to turn a problem into a party. History, after all, is just a collection of people muddling through with what they've got. And sometimes what they've got is a glass full of legal stimulants and a marketing slogan. So maybe tonight, be grateful for the humble comforts. Your clean sheets, your relatively unexciting beverage, your ability to fall asleep without the help of a pharmacist named Red. The next time you crack open a cold can of Coke, raise it in quiet salute to your ancestors who somehow survived the original recipe, lived to tell about it, and even managed to invent jazz along the way. Because history is sticky, sweet, and occasionally terrifying, but it's also a testament to how we keep moving forward, fueled by hope, stubbornness, and, sometimes, a little too much of a good thing. So, let the absurdities of the past drift away. The world outside can wait. Tonight, may your dreams be soft, your worries gentle, and your sleep, unlike the citizens of 1901, actually restorative. Good night.